My name is Suzan Seggerman. I'm president and co-founder of Games for Change. We're a nonprofit at the center of this new movement using video games to address serious issues like poverty, the environment, global conflicts, climate change. We believe games can and should have a powerful and positive impact on the world. Games for Change isn't making these new games. We are actually an organization that's supporting them. We're a nonprofit, that's a charity, and what we do is really bring people together, and we provide free resources and tools and opportunities for exchange. We have the biggest game event in New York now. It's in its 7th year, very exciting, and we have a listserv with thousands of people on it having ongoing discussions about this new emerging medium. I think what a lot of people don't recognize that games are a young medium and they're growing up. There's no reason why games should be just about action and wizardry and sports, and games can be about anything. Games can be about like film. They can be about poverty. They could be about war. They can be about political prisoners. People think of this word fun as being something that's necessary for games. I don't think games need to be fun. I think they need to be engaging. That means they need to be hard. They need to be fine-tuned for a perfect balance of challenge and reward. Anyone who plays games know that when you're in a game, it's not always fun. It can be incredibly frustrating and very difficult, and many times you want to just give up altogether. So there's no reason that they have to be light. Most of the time games aren't. They're really, they're challenging, they're immersive, and I just think, and many people do think, that they're really a new avenue to explore serious issues in the way films and TV have been doing for a long time. I mean, a lot of these games are fun, actually, and a lot of games that are entertainment games are not fun necessarily. They are compelling. Right? So some of the games, for instance, in our community, like Food Force, is a game that the UN created about how the World Food Program works. It's for 8 to 11-year-olds. You get to fly a helicopter. You get to drive a convoy. There are ways that you can put kids into the role of humanitarian. That's really feels dangerous and exciting. You're risking your life as you're flying the helicopter over sub-Saharan Africa, dropping food. The way games can be really powerful in the way World of Warcraft is, you're managing a team, you're, being a leader, becoming a leader in one way or another. These kinds of games, mainstream and those that are sort of on the outskirts, are providing opportunities we haven't really seen before. And I just think there are lots of different ways we haven't explored games. Games are a young medium in general, right? Entertainment games are less than 40 years old. So Games for Change, that community, really we're younger than 10 years old. So we're really just getting started. But there are a few examples that we can point to show that there's a lot of potential there. So this game, Food Force, I just mentioned, has been played more than 10 million times. That's amazing. And yes, it's a free game, mind you, but if you think about whether or not you're going to get a kid to read the newspaper about poverty, or listen to a radio program for a half an hour, or any kinds of the more traditional medium about poverty, you're not going to get a kid to do that. No way. But Food Force, I have an 8-year-old, she's been playing that game. She's immersed herself in this concept of helping people in Africa for hours. That's really powerful. And 10 million people don't play a bad game. We started in 2004, and I think we started on this collective hunch. I had played a game about Central America called Hidden Agenda, so I had a personal conviction that this was the way of the future. But a couple of other people had similar experiences. People were starting to get it, but it was basically just a hunch, an idea. But this year we're seeing a change. This year there's research. Major research has just been launched over this past year, including by the MacArthur Foundation, that showed that actually games are providing opportunities for kids to explore civic things like The Sims, and kids are becoming democratic activists inside The Sims. They're electing their friends mayors, they're forming campaigns. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the mainstream space that shows that games and civics actually have an interesting correlation. The other thing I saw this year is that right now in our country anyway, the GDC, the Game Developers Conference, is the major event. And then there's the Serious Games Conference, which is sort of a side event attached to it. And they sort of separated. This year, the mainstream GDC had 3 panels on games for positive social impact. For me, that was like an indicator, like, okay, the big boys, they're paying attention, like things are shifting. And I think, one thing I'm going to talk about in my talk this afternoon is that the models we think about when we are looking at this new model of game, Bob Dylan, a TV show called MASH, the film An Inconvenient Truth. These are all really popular, really well-made, popular culture entities that have done really well and, by the way, had a huge impact on how people think about issues. There's no reason why we can't have a game like that. So the Games for Change Festival, now going into its 7th year, is the biggest game event in New York. I mean, that in and of itself says something. Lots of people are interested in this new game form. What we're seeing, and some of the people we had Sandra Day O'Connor. She's one of the most important women in our country. She came and spoke about games 2 years ago when she was launching a game. She's a Supreme Court Justice, a former Supreme Court Justice of the United States. Nicholas Kristof was a keynote last year. He is probably the best known journalist in the United States who's looking at really addressing serious issues, and he's making a game. So what's happening is that really forward-thinking people are recognizing that games are an incredibly powerful platform to do social change. At the same time, we had a lot more input from the mainstream industry coming and really wanting to get involved. So I think there's this convergence of things that is happening around social impact games, and it's all happening at the festival. It's really exciting.